Senator Sununu, there is a widely held view among the scientific community that global warming is in part caused by human behavior. Last year, you said, quote, scientists have been unable to agree that there is a direct link between the temperature increase and human activity. Do you still believe that?
Well, I think the point I made at that time was the link between the levels of CO2 and the percentage of temperature increase that we've seen over the past 100 years. Of course, the global temperature has increased 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit over the past 100 years. Certainly, increased CO2 in the atmosphere plays a role because it is a greenhouse gas. We understand that. I co-sponsored legislation this past year with Tom Carper, bipartisan legislation, that would set restrictions not just on pollutants like mercury or sulfur or NOx that causes ozone, but also limits on CO2 emissions. I think we have an opportunity to put in place a regime of cap and trade, but we do need to understand exactly what the costs and the implications will be. I voted to move the climate change legislation forward on the Senate floor because I think this is an important issue. I think we should have a debate. Unfortunately, that legislation was blocked by some Democrats and Republicans that didn't want to have that full and open debate. This is a tough issue. It's a complex issue. I think we need to understand the costs. But as I say, I've co-sponsored legislation that would set limits on CO2 and other emissions as well.
As I'm sure you know, more than 150 New Hampshire communities have called on the federal government to take action on climate change. Are you still skeptical about all this, or do you think you're well representing these communities?
I think I was very clear there that in responding in part to those communities, but of course to the significance of the issue and the problem, I voted to move the legislation forward to the floor to try to work out legislation similar to what I co-sponsored that will begin addressing emissions of CO2.
Would you consider it's a priority for you, global warming?
Well, a priority enough that I was the lead Republican on the piece of legislation I co-sponsored with Tom Carper. It was the Carper-Sununu bill.